Jesus is baptized in the Jordan River by John the Baptist, but why? Hi, I'm Michael Barber. I'm professor of biblical studies and theology here at the Augustine Institute Graduate School of Theology in St. Louis, Missouri. And this is part 5 of a series I'm doing on the baptism of Jesus. Now, I've already shown in previous videos that Jesus' baptism is linked to his death. We might here also point out an interesting way this plays out in particular in Matthew's narrative. So at the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is identified as the son of David, the son of Abraham. That's the first verse of the gospel. Scholars have shown that Jesus' passion is especially connected to these two aspects of Jesus' identity. Jesus is like the son of Abraham, Isaac. Let's talk about that here. I'm drawing from Leroy Huizinga's excellent book, The New Isaac, Tradition and Intertextuality in the Gospel of Matthew, published by Brill. Huizinga shows that the story of Abraham's offering of Isaac, which in Jewish tradition is understood in terms of Isaac's voluntary self-giving, it's the binding of Isaac, it appears to be alluded to in Matthew's account of Jesus' death. In particular, the parallels are seen in Matthew's use of Greek expressions that appear to be lifted right out of the story from the Greek version of the scriptures of the story of Abraham offering Isaac in Genesis 22. So in the Garden of Gethsemane, we read, "Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, 'Sit here, kathesate autu, while I go yonder and pray,'" Matthew 26:36. This parallels the scene in Genesis 22, where we read, "Then Abraham said to his young men, 'Stay here, kathesate autu, with the donkey. I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you,'" Genesis 22:5 in the Septuagint. We also read, "While Jesus was speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a great crowd with swords, Machiron, and clubs, Zulon, from the high priests and the chief priests and the elders of the people," Matthew 26:47. The same word that's translated swords and clubs also appears in the story of Isaac in Genesis 22. The word that's usually translated wood and knife, we read, "Abraham took the wood and of the burnt offering, he laid it on his son Isaac, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife," Machiron. So Genesis 22:6. Lots of other parallels could be mentioned here, but it's hard to write off all of these connections as coincidental when Matthew begins his narrative by explicitly identifying Jesus as the son of Abraham, the new Isaac, in Matthew 1:1. So how does this relate to the baptism scene? When Jesus is baptized, a voice is heard from heaven saying, "This is my beloved son," Matthew 3:17. That's what Isaac is called in Genesis 22. God tells Abraham, "Take your son, your only beloved son." So Jesus is like Isaac, and as Isaac was offered as a sacrifice, Jesus is to be offered as a sacrifice. And whereas Abraham receives his son back, in a sense, from the dead on the third day of the story, Jesus, the only beloved son of the Father, is received back from the dead on the third day. So the baptism in this way identifies Jesus as a new Isaac who will be sacrificed. Isaac wasn't sacrificed, so that God's promises to Abraham can ultimately be fulfilled. His baptism is related to his identity as the new Isaac. It's also related to his identity as a new son of David. He's the son of David, the son of Abraham. I'll talk about that in the next video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, tell the algorithm you want more content like this. Thanks so much for watching.